So let's start with identity. You need to protect your business against incident where one of your users has their identity compromised. We do that using Azure Active Directory and Azure Active Directory Identity Protection. So let's take a look at the features that will help you build a strong identity and minimize user risk. The very first thing you must introduce is multi-factor authentication. It amazes me how few organizations use MFA or only use it to protect their IT admin accounts. Using it just to protect your admin accounts misses the point completely. Cyber criminals are looking for entry through your weakest links. They don't need admin access to get their work done. Once they get into any account, they can work their way up the food chain, researching emails to see if they can impersonate users and therefore execute a phony money transfer, for example. It's best to assume that all your users' accounts and their passwords have been exposed on the internet, and you therefore need to put in place measures to block sign-ins on devices the Azure AD has not confirmed belong to that user. For example, when Azure AD sees a user who always logs in from a specific computer in the UK and is now entering in the correct login and password from China on an unknown device, I'm sure you'd want to at least challenge that sign-on. And this is where we use MFA. The killer stat is that on its own, MFA will prevent 99.9% of all identity attacks. Now, you could ease the pain of MFA by setting up trusted public IP addresses behind which any user logging in will not require MFA. This is particularly useful for your head office type locations. Now, let's talk about single sign-on. I always advise clients to move away from having multiple user accounts for the various systems they use and have a single set of strong credentials that provide access to the various business systems they need access to. How many passwords can an employee remember before they start writing them down? And how often do your users use the same password or very similar variations of that same password for each of their systems? It's important to always assume that your third-party apps have been hacked, exposing your passwords on the dark web, therefore putting all of your systems at risk. With SSO, the user just has to remember the Microsoft 365 Azure AD login, and we educate the user to use strong passphrases for their Azure AD account that provides sign-in for all their various apps and systems. And since we're on the subject of passwords, you really should consider going passwordless, just like you do with your smartphone where you simply use your fingerprint, for example. You can do the same with Windows 10 Hello for business using facial recognition with your built-in laptop webcam or fingerprint reader. It's really cheap and a highly effective solution. The point is, the more we can reduce old-fashioned password entry to log into your computer, the more secure and stable your Microsoft 365 IT systems will be. It's crazy to think that our personal smartphone sign-in experience is more advanced, secure, and user-friendly than we use in the business. Now, a feature you might not be aware of that comes bundled with Azure AD is Global Password Protection. Global Password Protection automatically blocks weak or commonly used passwords that are well known on the dark web, stopping users from using them. You can even add in customized lists of banned passwords, such as ones that might be a variance of your company's name. Let's move on. So here's a question for you. Why do we allow anyone to log in from anywhere in the world when we only expect them to log in from the UK, for example, which is the case for most of our clients? It's crazy to me the cyber criminals that get hold of one of your users' credentials are allowed to sign in from countries you've never had people signing in from. Geographic block allows you to simply state no matter what, you only allow sign-ins from inside the UK and certain other countries. And for all other countries, you block sign-in. Now let's look at how we can really amp up our identity security for not a lot of money by simply upgrading to Azure AD Premium Plan 2, where we get Azure Identity Protection. With Azure Identity Protection, we get behavioral machine learning threat detection, focusing on, does the login attempt represent a risk? And we call that a risky sign-in. Or has the user's credentials been leaked? Are they a risky user? Now, Microsoft trains a complex machine learning model on your organization's behavior to determine your user's sign-in risk. For example, have we got an impossible travel incident? If a user logs in from London at 9 o'clock in the morning and then tries to do so from New York at 10 o'clock in the morning, it is simply not possible for you to be in both those locations within an hour's window. If this occurs, then the conditional access policy might be configured to force an MFA challenge, or force a password reset, or block the account and alert the IT admins. Additionally, with Azure Identity Protection, we also get compromised account hunting. This service searches the internet and dark web looking for leaked user credentials. If it finds one of your user accounts publicly exposed, it can automatically disconnect any open sessions for that user, forcing a password reset or disabling the account.